Hello everyone and welcome to your Saturn placement. After doing Jupiter, I really wanted to get to this one, but of course, just takes time, like the lesson of Saturn. As someone who's kind of an optimist, I guess I would call myself, and I like to believe in the positive things and I kind of love Disneyland. The serious nature of Saturn was probably the last planet that I really delved into. But there's so much to learn here. Saturn is the realist. It's here to teach you that lifelong lesson. So welcome, my fellow masochists. You have made it to the harshness of reality. I'll make it as pleasant as possible. If you want some feel-good vibes, stop now and watch the Jupiter videos. Just kidding. Saturn is called malefic because it's a place of hardship. Hardships are not random. They're not just the gods laughing at us, or maybe they are, but they are there to teach us a lesson. All of these lessons throughout all of these years, over time, the long haul of Saturn will teach us mastery. So what started as one of your greatest weaknesses will become one of your greatest strengths. When I did the Jupiter videos, one of the comments was that since I presented Jupiter as a superpower, I should present Saturn as Kryptonite. I thought that was such a great idea. Now, I don't know much about the Superman comics, but I do know enough to know what Kryptonite is. If Superman, over time, builds up his immunity to Kryptonite, then that is exactly what Saturn is all about. I also got some criticism for having so much about the actual planet and not as much about the specific traits of your placement. So I'm going to put more in there. But to know about the planet itself is important because it teaches you what's the difference between having a Saturn in Scorpio versus a Saturn ascendant. And when I was first learning about astrology, that was probably the thing that confused me the most. So that is why I spend so much time. Saturn is the slow burn. It's the delayed effect. Usually this area is something that we care so much about, but it seems so unobtainable. And then when we finally get there, we will look back and say it's really worth the journey. This is an area that's going to require dedication, patience, and time. You might feel like your father figure, or God isn't bringing you anything in this area. Like you put so much effort and then it's just not rewarded like Jupiter is. You have to do all of the work, and it's true. There are no spiritual guides or beings that are going to give you that extra boost in this area. This is good old-fashioned blood, sweat, and tears. It's an area that has to be aged like a fine wine. There's also often a lot of shame, which is a huge obstacle. There's this inner voice, you shouldn't do this. Push and pull of something you want, but something you feel is shameful. And for some people, Saturn is mostly about getting past that kind of shame in that area. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. So let's get into your Saturn placements. Saturn in Sagittarius. Your mantra is, I am a student of the world, and everyone has something to teach me. I don't know what I don't know, but I will know once I experience it. Here, the apple is meant to fall far from the tree. And what I mean by that is that most likely you were born in an environment that was like a little cocoon. Maybe it was a nice cocoon, maybe it was a very confining cocoon, but whatever it is, you are meant to venture out from that, to explore far beyond the little pig pen that you were put into. So you have to be a little rebellious in life. Maybe even a lot rebellious. For some of you, that might mean that you have to rebel against a religion. For some of you, that might mean you have to rebel against your parents' belief systems and political beliefs or whatever it is. You have a voice inside that says that you're meant to be on the straight and narrow, and you shame yourself if you venture out of that, as well as possibly other people shaming you. But you have to jump outside the lines in this life. And if you don't, and the more you delay it, and the more you fight against it, the more narrow-minded you will be. Dogmatic, close-minded, and just pushing life and people away. There's a fear here of flying, perhaps, or other cultures, visiting a country that doesn't speak your language or has a different religion or a different set of beliefs, or being around people that are doing different things than what you were raised with. But there's also this curiosity. As a child, you might have seen yourself as a perfectly obedient little student, and you do what you're told. And then in the end, you are going to be a rebellious Billy Idol, is pretty much this position. But seriously, you are meant to be an explorer. New fields, new thoughts, new places. in ways that your ancestry has never done. You probably have an ancestry line of some people that were either super rebellious or super not rebellious. Two extremes. Maybe you had both. So there's this duality within. You need to take it in, to revel in it. And all of these experiences of the world might be delayed because Saturn often delays these areas. But once it starts coming into your life, then you will find that you will become a master of open-mindedness and of acceptance and of experience and wisdom and being able to learn and grow and actually to change the fundamentals of the structure within that tells you who you are, what you believe. It's actually very flexible for you. I imagine it like a garden, and these are all stones for most people, but for you it's going to be a garden where it's just vines and flowers and they're going every which way. In addition to many of you being born into a narrow-minded upbringing, maybe some of you were actually born into a cult. You'll have to break free of things you were told. Maybe you were told things like only white-collar jobs are good jobs. Things that you were told were facts that you realize were not facts at all. From embracing the world, you will embrace your true self, which is an explorer, an adventurer, someone who is meant to be fearless and brave and learning constantly. Now, this isn't learning like, I believe this, therefore I will only accept facts that validate what I believe, which is what most people think that I'm talking about. But it actually means that I will actually change my beliefs based on what I experience. I will not rely on book smarts, but I will bravely shake things up in life and the foundations within to journey on a spiritual and existential quest that will take me to the outermost regions of my mind as well as the globe. Some of you might not have gotten onto a plane until your 30s, and then you'll realize, wow, there's so much to discover. This is so exciting. But this is often a person who's always going to want to travel. For some people, travel bug only is in the 20s. Well, you're the opposite. You are going to love travel and probably more and more as you get older. You might live thousands of miles from where you were born. You might have a career that connects you to people all over the globe. Travel and curiosity of other cultures and ways of thinking and being are in your blood. You'll never just repeat back what you've heard. In harsher times, you were such a rebel that you'd be burned at the stake, but hopefully your family will not do that, even if they might not always like your decisions. Your philosophy is ever growing and ever expanding, never to be taken lightly. It might be hard to stay with the same job or the career because Sagittarius does not like to be tied down, but you are someone that has a generous soul and a positive spirit and see the world as something full of possibilities. Usually someone that thinks about big ideas outside of themselves. So you might have a career as a spiritual leader, teacher, storytelling, higher learning, positive thinking, or travel. You're also seen in your career as somebody who's very moral and ethical. Because the notion of freedom has been somewhat of a fight for you, you don't take it lightly. Now, on the dark side of Saturn in Sagittarius is someone who's completely the opposite of everything I said, who clings to dogmas and who is narrow-minded, who doesn't feel comfortable anywhere except for the town that they live in, and they think everything in the way that they do things is the only right way to do stuff. So if you find yourself in that trap, then it's letting go of that shame that is telling you you have to do that, and you're meant to do that, and listening to the voice that tells you to venture out and to discover. Even if your parents think that you're controlled by the devil. Sorry, just had to throw that in there. You are a true believer, but what are you a true believer of? All right, guys, hope you liked my video on Saturn in Sagittarius, and come back for the next video.